Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, Winnipeg? Let's do this. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Big show coming off a big win last night for the Winnipeg Jets on home ice. The debut of Luke Schenn in a Jet jersey and the home debut of the returning Brandon Tanev. A 2-1 win last night over the New York Rangers. And now we move on to a heavyweight tilt in the West. The top two teams, the Jets and the Dallas Stars, on Friday. Looking forward to bringing in Murat to talk Jets post-trade deadline and what he saw last night from the team's presumed optimal lineup that we may see come playoff time, providing everyone's available. And we'll also talk about Luke Schenn and Brandon Tanev's addition, as well as last night's game with Kevin Sawyer. Always great to have Kevin on. You know, him traveling with the team, being around it maybe a little more than most of the media. Got such a good window into kind of that team dynamic, and we'll get to that with him. We talked with Joey Slattery yesterday about the two Winnipeggers that are going to be dancing in March Madness. And later on today, after we finish up with extensive Jets talk and coverage, we're going to welcome in our old pal Simon Hildebrandt, who's a star for the Seabears the last couple of years. He and his High Point University squad won their conference. He's going to March Madness. He's going to join us later on today, too. So it should be a heck of a lot of fun. Welcome to everybody in chat. Great to see you all. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And shout out to all you podcast listeners. Met a few podcast listeners yesterday at the game who popped by and said hi. I can never get in the chat because I'm working. But love the program. Really do appreciate that. And great to see everybody back at the building last night. And oh man, is Friday night going to be awesome when the Dallas Stars come to town. Listen, just before we bring in Michael Remis and get to it, a huge thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Our great partners at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Rolly's Transfer, Canadian Club, St. Vital Dental Center. Special thanks to Dr. Terry, who sent Michael to the game last night and did a little extra contest at the end for the St. Vital Dental Center tickets. That was very nice of him. Of course, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Wallace & Wallace, the Winnipeg Jets, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Fans First, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Everyone seems to be pretty fired up in chat right now. Michael Remis, you were at the game as well last night. Tidy bit of business for the Winnipeg Jets. 2 points they absolutely needed to keep the spirits high heading into this heavyweight tilt on Friday night.
Yeah, I went with my dad last night. We had a great time. I love
that wasn't your brother?
No, I see Royal Sports Rating in chat. Nice to run into Michael and his older brother at the game.
Your dad has the fountain of youth. There's no doubt. Shout out to Mr. Remis last night.
But, great night celebrating women in sport. Great pregame ceremony. The anthems, which we talked about yesterday, very well done. And a great atmosphere at the game. Love seeing Brandon Tanev. Just looks right seeing him in a Jets jersey again, causing havoc, running all over. We got a good look at Luke Schenn, who came as advertised, big body, wallpapering guys to the boards, blocking shots, doing all the things he was acquired for. Him and Hayden Fleury looking strong on the third pairing. And it's funny, Nemestikov talking yesterday, we played the clip saying, how they've been getting chances and haven't been getting on the board. Well, there he was opening the scoring for the Winnipeg Jets, and Connor Hellebuyck, very solid. I do love the Rennie stat, which team had the better goalie, and it was certainly Connor Hellebuyck. Stopping Zibanejad on a one-timer at the side of the net, the most casual, just coming over. Like any other goalie, you think he'd be going frantically side to side, but Connor Hellebuyck, he's just there every single time. It'd get a bit hairy near the end, especially after what you thought was an insurance marker got disallowed. The Jets were able to hang on for a 2-1 win, and now we can spend a couple days here hyping up Friday's home Jets Stars game. Very excited for that.
Yeah, I'm seeing Peyton in chat saying, I had to get some tickets for Friday's game since I didn't have the game on Friday with my season tickets. It's that big of a game. I grabbed them right after the game last night. I think there's a lot of people that if they split their seats up and didn't have Friday, March 14th, are going to do what they can to get in the building. Hopefully we'll see a packed sellout of fired up Jet fans for this matchup between Winnipeg and Dallas. We will definitely get into that a little later on today. But you know what? Let's start off with Luke Schenn. He came exactly as advertised last night. I mean, just a big presence on the blue line. And to be honest, I actually thought that Hayden Fleury looked as good and as confident as he maybe had at any point this season. And again, he's played up in the lineup at times, depending on injuries. The third pair was really, really solid. And Schenn, I believe, had 5 hits. What really stood out, though, with the game on the line, the blocked shots that he took. I think he took 5 last night as well. No worse for wear afterwards. And, you may as well get this clip up right now. I mean, just to give you an idea about how big this dude is. This is the jacket ceremony afterwards as Luke Schenn struggled to put on the black leather jacket given to him by his teammates in his Jets debut.
Snug. Thanks, boys. It's been a crazy week for me, but I appreciate you guys welcoming me with open arms and glad to be a part of this. And cheers to many more and grinding her out down the stretch, and we'll get better as we go here.
Yeah! Everyone taking him at the right moments, but little Jimmy.
Tough to follow that up. What Cheddar, welcome, Tanny. That boy. Let's keep this going, boys.
All right, so smiles all around in the Jet locker room afterwards as Luke Schenn tried to squeeze into that black leather jacket, the aviator jacket that he was given. And, of course, Cole Perfetti, who for my money was the best player on the ice last night, given the camo jacket from Brandon Tanev, who got it earlier this week. I see Key saying, absolute unit. Dan Jets fan, he is a beast. Reem, this is a guy, and again, I don't want to. Too many people make everything about Logan Stanley in the first place. But I will say, considering what we're talking about, third pairing defense, size, physicality, clearing out the front of the net, the ability to block shots, penalty kill contributions, Luke Schenn seems to be the guy that is the completed package of what I think the Jets for a long time had hoped that Logan Stanley would turn into. Now, Stan in the press box last night is a healthy scratch, probably on the outside looking in for the foreseeable future, assuming that the defensemen are put up. And I think he's probably in a role that is more suited to where he's at on this depth chart. But the Winnipeg Jets took a big step forward when it comes to a lot of those things that you need to win in the playoffs and be competitive in these tough games. And as I said, everyone walking out of the building last night, very impressed with the quiet, strong game of the newest member of the team.
Yeah, I love seeing him put on the jacket, calling it a little snug. And just on Cole Perfetti, hit a career-high 40 points last night with 2 assists. Hassan, his last 17 games, he's got a very nice 6 goals, 9 assists for 15 points. So for a guy who was in the press box slumping in the second half of last year, he's doing the opposite right now, really heating up, and just a beautiful, almost like the Kucherov deke move where he fakes it, fake taking to the net. I think he whiffed on it a little. It seemed like everyone was whiffing on pucks last night, but finding Velarde, in the slot there for a wide open net. And Luke Schenn, he's wearing number 5, does remind you a bit of Brendan Dillon. Just, you saw him ride Arthur Kaliev into the boards at the end of the game, blocking shots, just being a big body, playing penalty kill. He did seemingly play, a couple shifts with, he played a shift with Sandberg, a shift with Morrissey. Again, big guy, and him and Hayden Fleury, 2 guys from Saskatchewan, played 10-31 yesterday at 5-on-5. And nice game, nice game for them. Us, solidifying that third pairing. So look, it was his first game first time on the ice, he said after the game, since like last Tuesday. So it had been a while. Certainly some rust there for him. I imagine as he becomes more comfortable with the roster, his play will improve, but a very good first impression there for Luke Schenn.
Well, for sure. And again, we'll hear from Schenn in a minute and hear from Scott Arniel on it. I do want to talk just quickly about Perfetti in the second line. I thought Ehlers was the best player on the ice in the first period, and Cole Perfetti a close second. And listen, Vlad had gone 12 games without a goal. All the talk about improving the center of the second line at the deadline, which didn't happen. There is a lot of pressure on Vlad, I think, in this line to, continue to drive offense and produce. Very nice to see Vlad get one, albeit that was entirely put together by his two line mates. And again, we're going to get into this with Murat and with Kevin Sawyer a little later on. But man, what a difference a year makes when you're looking at Cole Perfetti with the player that he is right now, the confidence that he's playing, the ability to hang in the battles against big wingers and defensemen in the National Hockey League compared to where he was last year, struggling the way that he was. And it really seems like everything that happened to him last year, he's took and challenged himself to take that next step, Remis. And I mean, that is a huge development for the Winnipeg Jets because we know that the first line can score. We know what the bottom six is going to give you. If that second line can take advantage of some advantageous matchups and continue to produce, well, that's going to be what the Winnipeg Jets are going to need if they're going to expect to beat quality teams come Stanley Cup playoff time in the Central and beyond.
Yeah, you can't rely on the top line. For every game they've gone a bit quiet here the last couple, but it's been that second line stepping up. We talked yesterday, having chances, but just haven't been able to bury them. And Nemesnikov getting on the board early, Perfetti as well. And you just look at Cole Perfetti's career numbers. Last year, 71 games, 38 points. This year he's at 66 games, 40 points. So not only is he, already past the total from last year with, 16 games or 15 games to go, he's going to blow by it. And, for a guy who had contract negotiations, couldn't come to terms before the start of training camp, I think it was going to be up to him to determine his next contract. And, he's probably going to be getting a pay raise if he keeps this up going forward. He had the hot start to this year, had a bit of a lull, but again, he's certainly picking it up here now with 15 points in his last 17 games since that hat trick against Utah in January 24. He's coming out of the gate real strong. Nice to see us for a guy who, came into this year wanting to prove everyone that last year's second half, was an anomaly, and that's not the player that he is.
He's grown. He's better. He's definitely has more fight in his game. We've kind of talked about that all season long, and it really seems to be coming together for Cole right now at a time when the team needs it. He's even got a little head start on his playoff beard. If you saw his interview last night after the game.
I liked your tweet, Huss.
I did have some fun with that, laughing, smirking in the face of anyone that said that he couldn't grow facial hair. He's getting a head start on the beard, and I am fully here. Can you imagine if the Jets went on a nice, really long run, how a fully grown in Cole Perfetti playoff beard would look? some really good stuff. I thought Gabe Vilardi actually had a really rough first period. He was sort of off. You kind of mentioned that there were some pucks jumping over guys' sticks and, a couple plays where they kind of lost track of guys. But Gabe, like many of his teammates, sort of continued to get better throughout the game. He scored his 27th goal, his first 60-point season. The power play clicks again, now sitting at 31.5%. Clearly the number one team in the league. So that was nice. But really, Remis, I think as we look to the second half of the second period after the team got the lead, and especially the third period, the strong defensive structure, the commitment to not giving anything to the Rangers easily, the blocked shots led by Luke Schenn, but a number of Winnipeg Jets get into it. I mean, a lot of things we saw in the third period, very important when things get ratcheted and ramped up with the with the playoffs just around the corner. I really like it. Was kind of a workmanlike effort where the team seemed to be in control. They know they got Hildebrandt back. Everyone laid out. It was defense first, and they were able to do what they came out to do, and that was get 2 points and get 8 up on the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, it's very important. I know at this point of the year, I'm schedule watching. Minnesota had the lead on Colorado and ended up winning that game in the shootout. So, you're following the Central Division. We've talked yesterday, Dallas off until Friday's game, and the Jets were able to lock it down. I did enjoy Dylan DeMello's goal. I mean, what a shot that was. Brought me back to when he scored a big one against Seattle. They did challenge for goaltender interference. It was a tough one. We saw interference earlier in the game where Matt looked like Rempe did get pushed into Hellebuyck and fell on him, and he's a big guy. He gets noticed. Morgan Barron, tried to go through the crease and got blocked by a Rangers defender. Like, it looked like he, it was a strange play. He's trying to get out of there, and the Ranger guy is holding him in, and a shot comes and it goes in. So when they challenged that us, I didn't think it should have been. I can see why you would call that goaltender interference, but that's a tough play for Barron. He's trying to get out of the Ranger player. Like, isn't that interference on the Rangers for holding Barron into Shesterkin?
You know what? I'm with you. I kind of thought that because they had called the Rempe one for goaltender interference a little earlier on, I think that probably made it more likely that one would have been.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of with you, but I mean, I think basically in that I was a little biased. I don't know. Did you see the Islander King game last night?
I did not see.
So there was a couple of goals taken off the board yesterday. There was one with Anders Lee, who was essentially in the process of shooting the puck, but he got into the blue paint. He was trying to bring the puck around and ended up moving the goaltender with one of his legs and putting it on the other side. It kind of seemed like it was in the act of shooting. It didn't matter. If you go in and you obstruct the goaltender at all inside the blue paint on a goal, they're going to call it. So maybe that's something to be noted. It was kind of funny that both 73s, Rempe and Brandon Tanev, both took goaltender interference penalties last night as the guys look to protect the netminders as we get into the crazy part of the season.
Yeah, one thing I would say, it's like, well, if that's interference, I know this is the way the rules are, that it's the disallowed goal on a shot, but shouldn't that have been a 2-minute penalty if it was goaltender interference? I know Murat clarified that on X last night, but oh well, it was fun to celebrate. I loved. It's funny, the two goal scorer. Well, DeMello his goal didn't count, but they were ripping the Macarena for Velarde, and "This Is Your Night" is Dylan DeMello's goal song, a nice 90s dance tune from Night at the Roxbury.
I figured we need to. Is it from Night at the Roxbury?
Yes, great song. I was like, everyone was rocking. I felt like it was in the 90s with the goal songs last night. So it was disappointing. It was all for nothing. All that people were having a great time for that goal, and they took it off the board.
I was bummed out that we weren't able to. I still laughed. The last time Dylan DeMello scored, List dropped a tweet referring to the Dylan DeMello goal as a smoke bomb.
Yes,
of course, his nickname within the team is Smoke, which I think has a lot of legs. We just need a few more goals. So it was unfortunate that we weren't able to drop smoke bombs in the chat and on social media last night, because of course it was done. But listen, DeMello had a strong game. Josh Morrissey was everywhere. I mean, like, top to bottom, that blue line looked complete last night. And listen, Luke Schenn was a big part of that. We're going to hear from Coach Scott Arniel in just a minute. Before we do that, let me give a shout out to our friends over at Rolly's Transfer. Getting a little nicer outside, folks. Spring, summer around the corner. Many of you may have a move planned when things thaw out a little bit. If you are moving in the spring or summer, take the stress out of it, or as much as you can as possible, with our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Family owned and operated for over 20 years here in Winnipeg, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Of course, they're all over the city and the province on a daily basis with their extensive logistics business. And keep your eyes out for the Winnipeg Sports Talk Rolly's truck on the road. We're going to do a fun contest on that at some point this summer. But the bottom line is, if you're planning on moving, head on over to Rollies.com, click on the request and estimate feature, and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rollies customers have been receiving for over 60 years. For your next move, make it Rollies. Find out more. Request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Big thanks to Terry over at St. Vital Dental Center. He was tied up last night and very generously popped over a real nice pair of lower bowl seats that we ended up doing a contest for yesterday. Of course, Terry, huge Jet fan, lots of Jet fans at St. Vital Dental Center. And certainly a great place to go if you need any dental work, or maybe it's just been a minute since you've been and seen the dentist. Good time for a spring cleaning of your mouth, not just your home as well. Head on over online to stvitalddental.ca. You will see all of the services offered, from 6-month-old dentistry all the way to 99-year-olds and everything in between, doing things like, root canals, fillings, checkups, cleanings, dental implants as well, with just a great facility, really nice staff. And as some people have done, try and get that Friday afternoon appointment, and you can watch the marble race from your chair while you get worked on. They're at 167 St. Anne's, free parking in the back. Find out more today. St. Vital Dental Center. You can give them a call and set up and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And hey, a big shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery as we finish up winter, making sure the cars and trucks are running. Manitoba Battery's been powering WST listeners all winter long, and now we look ahead to the spring, which means thawing out those rivers, getting on the lakes, boats, batteries, ATVs, you name it. Right now, though, to get you through winter, you got to make sure that car and truck is good to go. And Manitoba Battery has the best prices in town on batteries of all makes and models, with the best customer service and free delivery anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Shop local, get the best deals in town. Make it Manitoba Battery. 2 locations in Winnipeg and online at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's hear from the coach, Scott Arniel, who talked about the game last night, the big win, and the impact of Luke Schenn on the blue line.
That was a hard-fought game. We know how desperate the Rangers are going to be, and certainly saw that. And at times got into a little bit of a track meet going both ways, but both specialty teams had to obviously step up. And it was a good game, good goaltending with the club on the right side of it.
How would you describe the effect Luke Schenn made?
A big one. I think that ran into some people, a couple of big shot blocks. Keeps the game simple, like we talked about this morning or yesterday. It makes a good first pass. Recognizes what's at him. I thought, I'm sure there was lots of nerves coming in here. First game against a team like the Rangers, it was a real good first showing.
All right, the debut of Luke Schenn made the coach happy as well, in addition to all the fans. Here's a little bit more from Arnie on the newest Jet.
I mean, he plays in those situations. I think that there's a lot of guys that go the long way around to get to the net when he's out there. But the shot blocking, kind of just that presence around the net front. So we're gradually going to start to put him into more and more situations. This obviously the first one, but saw some real good things on a penalty kill as well. Some good patience. After he got the puck down low, he made some good clears, made some good outlet plays. So good first game.
All right, so a lot of eyes on Schenn and the blue line, but of course it was also a chance to welcome Brandon Tanev back to Winnipeg. Nice welcome for both of those players early on. Now, Brandon Tanev skating on a new-look fourth line with Morgan Barron playing center and Alex Iafallo, who had another big game last night. So versatile. Here's what Arnie had to say about the contributions of line 4 last night.
Pest line, I don't know. I don't know. You know what? Again, they got energy. They buzz. They good zone time. I like a lot of what those guys do. They they don't get stuck in their end very often, and they get the job done down the other end.
And then
with Tanev and Preeler as well. It just seems like he's able to bring people into the fight, and he also does the speed, but just the energy. How much does that shift momentum for a bench in the course of a game when he makes an awesome play?
Yeah, I think that everybody knows him and knows what he does. Certainly he has history here in Winnipeg, but he can get underneath the skin of the opposition. He's quick, though. He's a lot quicker. I knew he was fast. You can really see his quickness. And, he's an energy bunny there. When he just gets going, and you like to see that. Puts a lot of pressure on the opposition.
All right, so there is Jets head coach Scott Arniel talking about the contributions of the fourth line. Now, we'll hear from Luke Schenn in a minute, but one of the things they did right away was compliment the way that this team plays, their commitment to the defensive structure. And Arniel was asked just maybe to respond to Schenn's praise of the way that this team plays and what he saw last night in the defensive zone.
That's obviously our base, and that's what the buy-in has been for us the last few years. And he sees the example. He played against us. He was in our division. But I know that for him it makes it easier with that structure, having that kind of defense first mentality. It makes it an easier game for him, and that just being because that's what he does well.
All right, Scott Arniel on the defensive structure. We mentioned Cole Perfetti. We'll hear from him in a minute. Big game. Nikolai Ehlers was great. Vlad Nemestikov snapped the 12-game goalless drought. Here's what the coach had to say about the impact of the second line.
Cohesive. The one thing is they haven't got the numbers that they've got some great looks, some great chances. That's a career high in points for Fetz. That's awesome. I mean, he didn't score, but he made a couple of really nice plays. Again, that line, they looked real dangerous. And I was trying to run him up against Panarin's line with Trocheck. That's a big task, and because what they're going to do going the other way. I thought they won the majority of the the ice battle. They spent a lot more time in New York's end than on our end. So that's a good sign when that can happen.
Tanev came in as well as Luke Schenn to hopefully improve the penalty kill. The Jets power play scored. They did give up one power play goal last night. Here's what Arnie had to say about the PK.
We looked at it kind of post-Christmas, and then kind of after the break, there's some changes that we want to do. But adding Luke and Brandon kind of help it. They kind of two real good penalty killers, so hopefully it continues to keep doing what it needs to do. Still some areas for us, some of the clears things, what they're not getting the clears when we have that opportunity. That's a big thing if you can get it down there and get a change, get some fresh bodies out there. But you know what, guys are really kind of zoning in, recognizing how important our penalty kill is, just like our power play. And on any given night, one of them may save you or win you hockey. And that one you talked about late in the game, that was big.
So there's the coach, pleased with his team's 2-1 win. Now 8 points up on the Dallas Stars, who were here on Friday night. We'll talk about that a little later on, and we'll certainly get into the impact of Luke Schenn. Schenn did speak after the game and talked about his first game with his new club.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a week. That's an understatement. I mean, just obviously kind of not expecting really to get traded, and then it being Pittsburgh, and then fly out to meet the team in Vegas, and then get flipped the next morning, and then fly back to Nashville. It's just been a crazy week, and then on top of that, it's been about 6 days since I skated, so that was also a little bit of nerve-wracking. I mean, I skated yesterday a little bit here, but it's like almost having a double Four Nations break with the time off. So it was nice to get the first one out of the way there, and appreciate everyone welcoming me in here.
Schenn also expanded on just stepping into the Jets lineup for the first time.
Well, I mean, like as advertised, I mean, obviously playing them this year, it's not by mistake that they're in this position in the standings. The biggest thing I noticed is, how much structure there is, and how detailed it is with, the D zone, and kind of guys are in the right position and defending first. And at the end of the day, that's what wins in this league. So, they have skill when it's time to take over, and obviously great power play and goaltending. But like I said, it was pretty impressive to be a part of a group who plays the right way like this.
Yeah, there was that comment that Arnie was asked about later on, just with the respect to the defensive structure that his new team has. some big block shots in that game by a number of Winnipeg Jets, especially Luke Schenn. Schenn talked about getting in the line of fire last night and putting up blocks for Connor Hellebuyck.
At the end of the day, I just try to do whatever it takes to win. Obviously, try to. I guess that's sort of my identity, and it always has been. And if I'm not doing that, then probably not playing the best of my capabilities. So no, I mean that's what gets me into the game. And at the end of the day, I'll do whatever I can to win. And at the end of the, like I said, I mean whether the fans appreciate that or not, I'm just obviously trying to help the Jets win games. And it was a great crowd tonight. Obviously, the building had a great energy in it. Fans were on their feet at times in the third period, especially. And it's exciting to play in front of a passionate fan base like this.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Schenn didn't, pick up on that. It's an intelligent crowd. The crowd was really into the game last night and very appreciative of some of the selling out that Jets were doing, including Luke Schenn, when it came to putting up those blocking shot numbers. Here's what he had to say about his first game playing with Hayden Fleury. What that had one of his strongest performances of the year on the side of Luke Schenn.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a great skater. Good long reach, good stick, makes simple plays, and yeah, I obviously never, I didn't really know him even though he's a SAS guy, and I mutual connections from Tampa, and so yeah, we just had a little bit in common, talked a little bit before the game, and just plays off of D zone faceoffs and neutral zone faceoffs. Whether you win or lose the draw, there's assignments to be covered, and I'm sort of doubling down, asking him a few extra questions going into a faceoff. So he was really helpful tonight and played a great game, and he's played real solid tonight.
All right, and one more from Schenn on the other guy that came over. Of course, Brandon Tanev played the games on the weekend. Here's what Schenn had to say about getting out there with the guy they call Turbo.
Well, just the energy. I mean, obviously, playing against some years in Seattle, especially when I was in Vancouver, seeing him a little bit more there, and just brings an energy about him, and he's got a motor on him, just kind of feet don't stop moving, and just 100 miles an hour at all times. So, he's effective. He goes to the net. He, wins battles. He's good on the forecheck. Works his butt off coming back into the D zone, which is helpful for a D. And yeah, did a lot of good things. And we're both learning on the fly. Obviously, he's got a little bit of a history here, so a little familiarity. But yeah, it's easy to see why he's highly sought after as far as a good role player for sure.
All right, so there's Luke Schenn after a successful debut with the Winnipeg Jets. We can't forget about Cole Perfetti. He was the first star of last night's game, being involved in both of the goals Winnipeg scored. Here's what Perfetti had to say about a big win for his club over New York.
Yeah, it was a tight game. Really tight. They're a good team, and there wasn't really much either way, and some good goaltending and physical. It felt, it was pretty physical and fast, and so that's what most of those games are going to be like now coming down the stretch. So it's a good one to prepare us.
In a tight game like that, you need your special teams to come up big. You get a winning goal on the power play and get a big penalty kill in the third period.
Yeah, it's great. Special teams has been a huge part of this all year, and again, the power play, scores a big goal for us, and our PK shuts it down when we need them to, and I think that's been, a big story of our team and our success, and just trying to get better, both units and the penalty kill, just trying to keep getting better and better, and working together, and it's coming together nicely.
All right. Speaking of the power play, Cole was, of course, the disher to Gabriel Velarde on that inevitably winning goal of the game last night. Here's what Perfetti had to say about that power play and the assist to set up Gabe.
It was kind of like I was going to take it to the net, and then and realized that Gabe, I think, was pretty open, and tried to catch myself and mishandled it in a good way to, I guess, fake everyone out. It was it was a little bit of a panic. I wanted to take it to the net and then mishandled it, and it worked out well. So, yeah.
No, that's maybe the story of the Jets power play this year. Even when you're not doing exactly what you're wanting or trying to do, good things happen. Perfetti also talked about what it was like having big Luke Schenn on the blue line last night. Here's what he had to say about the latest acquisition by Winnipeg.
A lot more fun to play with him than against him. I'll tell you that. He a couple really big hits, couple really big blocks. I think, and he's just always making the smart, simple play, and he's a rock back there. So it's again a lot more fun to play with him. He's a heck of a player and big guy out there, and he's not fun to play against. So it's great to have him.
What are your memories from playing against him?
I've been hit a couple times for sure. Yeah, didn't feel good, and he's also. It's hard to get shots through. That's a perfect example tonight. He in the third period there, he rocked a couple guys, and then in the last 10 minutes, he had 3 or 4 blocks, whatever it was, that were, he's almost playing goalie. He took up so much space, and you can't get it past him. So that's amazing.
Awesome game for Cole Perfetti. One more from him. He set a career high in points last night with his 2-point output. Here's what he had to say about that milestone.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's obviously it's not all about points. You want to focus. My goals this year has just been focusing on my play, and the points will come. And it started. They've started to come our line. It was nice to see our line score tonight. I said in the intermission there that we've created so much in the last 10 games and haven't really been rewarded for it, and I think tonight it's great to see Vladdy score. We were talking about it earlier, just got to get to the net, and that's exactly what happens. He goes to the net, we find a goal, and hopefully that's the start of we start seeing the puck go in the net a little bit more for us.
Last night, Cole Perfetti, Jets beat the Rangers 2-1, and now it is on to Friday night, hosting the Dallas Stars. We're going to talk about that, last night's game, and much more with Kevin Sawyer of TSN. Coming up in just a minute. Let me give a big shout out to our friends at Princess Auto, though. Before that, synonymous with Winnipeg, Princess Auto, founded in the Peg, headquartered right here in the city, and now coast to coast across the country, but with 3 Manitoba locations that serve you, 2 in Winnipeg, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and of course the Brandon location. For our friends out in Westman, Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals and the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you over at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store today, or get those ideas churning and shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. The countdown is on to Bomber season as well, down at Princess Auto Stadium. Big shout out to our friends over at F Apparel. Guys, if you're looking to up your menswear game heading into spring and summer, 190 Smith Street is where you want to go. The best in custom suits, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles. The biggest and best selection of menswear accessories around as well. Check out their website for their 2 big promos on right now. Great grad deal where if you've got a graduate in the family, a suit for the new grad means a free shirt and free tie with each purchase. And of course, if you're planning for a wedding, talk to the fellas at F about a special discount for the wedding party when the guys get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. F is at 190 Smith Street downtown. Find out more or make an appointment to pop in for a fitting online at F. That's EPH apparel.com. And a big shout out to Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists in town. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's done a number on your old one, give them a call. They've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, chain link, welded wire, wood fences, you name it, they have it. And if you need a new garage door, give Wallace & Wallace a holler. They've got the largest selection of overhead garage doors in town, which means one's perfectly made to match your home and add value to it at the same time. 452-2700 is the number. Give them a call. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom in person on Lawson Crescent, just off of Kenniston. Murat still to come. Right now, though, let's welcome in TSN's Kevin Sawyer for his thoughts on last night and the Jets post-trade deadline. Kev, great to have you back on the program. That was fun last night, bringing Brandon Tanev back, and Luke Schenn got a little taste of a win in his first game as a Jet.
Fun is right. Everybody was, loves this time of the year because you're set. This is what it is. Team picture day today. there's different stages of every year, but this is the one I think is the most exciting, where you snap that photo and you say, all right, let's go. This is what it's going to look like. This is who we are. And you got a taste of that. It's only going to get better. Luke Schenn joining the crew after Brandon Tanev played now his third game. I love the fit. It's a good feel going forward.
It's so much fun having you on the program and talking hockey. But in addition, you probably have the best read on this team because of the nature of your job and traveling with them throughout the year. Tell us a little bit about what it was like behind the scenes when Brandon Tanev came back on the weekend and the way Luke Schenn was welcomed into the fold.
Yeah, leading up to the deadline, lots of noise. I talked to Vladimir Nemestikov on the program last night about, everything was centered around second line center and beefing up the second line. That was the hit. That was the home run for Chevy. That was his priority. There's no doubt about it. So, but what I didn't feel as anxiety, it just felt like more of the same, kind of reset every day kind of thing. And it's clear to me that the room believes and has trust in Chevy and the management that they're going to make changes if it makes sense for the team and if it makes the team better without disrupting. That happened. They didn't hit the home run. They weren't able to get done what they feel like, and I think most of us would agree that they wanted to address, and that's beefing up the second line. But then you move forward, and Brandon Tanev nearly sprints into the building in New Jersey. It was so similar to the way he plays. It was just like, hey, boys, hair straight back, right into the room, instant fit. That's huge because you got a guy that you wonder what you're getting. You have an idea, but with this one, you know exactly what you're getting. Built-in chemistry. Scheif and Tanev were really close when he was here the first time around. He's bunking with Scheif right now. I don't need to tell you about the chemistry on the third line with Lowry if that ends up materializing. And then a lot of excitement. Now, listen, Luke Schenn isn't a blockbuster deal. He's not going to be the difference. He's a depth add, but it feels like more than that. And it feels like that from me. It feels more than that in the locker room. I'm not in there, but I think there's a huge amount of excitement because he fills a need that I don't think the Jets have had since Buff, in the sense that he's not Dustin Byfuglien, but he is a big, heavy, I said Viking, because that's the first word that comes to mind. He is thick. We've got size. Adam Lowry's big, but he's long and he plays a heavy game, but not like Luke Schenn. 5 hits last night, 5 blocks last night. I think he's the 5th all-time leader in block shots since they started tracking that. Or maybe it's hits, both. Who knows? I think it's hits. But the ads make absolutely perfect sense, and they solidify the best team in the NHL. So could they have done more? Yep. I think I have a pretty good feeling what the costs would have been for Chevy going forward to add that second line center. And if I'm right in assuming what they were, I'm glad that Kevin Cheveldayoff didn't make those moves, because this team is built to be competitive now and in the future. Listen, they're not signing free agents, right? They've got guys on their no trade list, so he's playing against a stacked deck. The moves he made were excellent, and the team feels healthier than it ever has, and it was already strong.
Yeah, on Friday night's broadcast, I heard you talking about the cost that it would have taken to get Brock Nelson, and whether he was even into coming north of the border. There's been different reports on that. Who knows? But I'm sort of with you. I mean, to me, Braden Yeager, considering what you gave up to him, where he is right now in his development, the sort of player he projects to be, that's a guy the Winnipeg Jets want to have for a long time, I think, around here. And he would have been pretty tough to move off. And, while it's always nice to get, the guy that you're targeting, I'm interested in just how this all went over with Vlad, because he's done everything the team's asked of him, just signed an extension with the club. And by the way, this team is on top of the National Hockey League and has been all season long. I mean, it's pretty tough it's tough to give him a hard time about the job that he's done. Now, can you always make your team stronger? I get that. But in some ways, I mean, I think he just comes out again with more to prove. And last night was a perfect example of what that second line is capable of, and they continue to get better.
Isn't that the truth? Like, I would say that they've been the most consistent line here recently. And that's saying a lot, because the top line has been what it has been. They're great. And that's what you get when you have a Vlad Nemestikov on your team. He is so versatile, the most versatile player. And along with that versatility has to come humility. And you have to be willing, and he has been willing to do whatever is asked. One thing that's not up for question here is he's going to play an important role on this team. He's on the power play. He plays in every scenario. Top six. Was he slated for that? No. But he would have been willing and more than happy to move to wherever it made this team better. And no move was made, no problem at all. And I believe him. I know him well. We live right beside each other, and that's important. He said it on the air last night, and I asked him before we went live. I says, "I'm going to ask you about this. You cool?" He goes, "Yeah, of course I am. It's totally fine." That's important. And you can't overlook the fact that he wants the team to be better. Knows he's going to be important no matter what scenario you put him in. But looking at Brock Nelson or whoever else Scott Lawton, you bring somebody else in, you better damn well make sure that line gets better. And that's not an easy thing to do because they have been incrementally getting better as this year has gone on. Maybe not as much because of Vlad, but more Cole. Cole has turned his game into a man's game. That line is great. Do I wish it was bigger? I do, because they're going to get pounded in the playoffs. That when you get down to the brass tacks, you're going to get injuries. Where do you go next? All that. But I like that line. I like this team. It feels solid to me.
Well, and you listen, while you mention, I want to go back to Shen in a minute, but let's talk about Cole Perfetti and where he's at right now. I mean, what a difference a year makes, Kev. And it seems like a lot of the lessons that he learned, you put it this way, if the team learns its lessons from the playoffs last year, as well as Cole Perfetti seems to have learned his lessons from the ups and downs of last season, we could be in for a really fun spring.
Well said. You know what? Well said. I totally agree. I never really thought of it from that angle, but maybe that's Cole's form of leadership where he's the most improved player. There's no doubt about it. And you look at Dylan Sandberg stepping up. I mean, it almost seems automatic and expected now. Let's not forget, he went from 15.5 to now he's around 21.5. He's been great. But Cole Perfetti is a smaller body playing on a line that needs to be tough in their own way. I said this on last night in the interview because I feel like I keep going back to the same place with Cole, and it almost feels unfair now about, oh man, all the struggles and all the sacrifice and all the setbacks and all the lessons. He's arrived, and it's now happened for long enough where it's clear to me he's redefined his game. And he has gone from a kid to a man. Like, I don't know how else to say it. He gets it. He understands, and now I think Scott O'Neill, the Jets understand what they're getting with this guy. He understands how to use his body to protect the puck. He goes to the front of the net all the time. He's making plays behind the net and out of the corners. It's inspiring, and it's the proof right there. Like, if we go back to last year and he went 23 games without scoring, whatever it was, healthy scratch, I'm like, God, is he really going to get it? Like, can he get to the level he needs to for this team to win a Stanley Cup in the top six? I don't know. Now I feel like I do. I think that he's proven, and there's more to prove. Don't get me wrong. We won't get ahead of ourselves, but huge fan of Cole Perfetti. Cole has been honest with me about how it's been crippling in the past. When we talk, off the record, it's hard. It's hard on these guys to go through those pains, and however long it was without, the goal scored, healthy scratches. But he always talked about, the input before the output, and he stuck to that, never wavered, believed in himself, to the point now where the input is what it is, and it's where it needs to be, and he's getting the output. His line's getting the output. They're getting the offense, but they're getting it the right way, where you can see the offense being generated now from him and the line is the offense that you need in the playoffs. That was the goal. I'm a huge fan of Cole because of how strong he is mentally and how he stuck with it, even though he wasn't getting the results. He didn't cheat the game. He didn't cheat himself. I think it's inspiring to see how far he's come. That is so important. So important. Imagine not having that big second line center, that beefy guy up the middle, and Cole Perfetti inconsistently, going 20 games without scoring a goal. He's consistent. That line's rock solid. He's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm not sure if there's like analytic numbers on just battles won. And often that's what it comes down to, Kevin. I mean, it's tough to do the great things that Perfetti and Ehlers are able to do if you don't have the puck. And he has been so much more determined on the wall. And he's craftier as well, and he's got more jam to his game. And, he was phenomenal last night, very deserving of that first star of the game. Back to Schenn for a minute. You mentioned that, he comes in and he's just a different player. We saw the hits, we saw the big block shots. It seemed to me that he has a special presence out there. And we talk a lot about toughness. He doesn't need to be going into every scrum and grabbing guys. It was very apparent that the New York Rangers in and around the net knew when big number 5 was there. And I'm interested just to see how much more he contributes going forward, because as we've seen in the past, he did play significant minutes with Morgan Rielly. And do you think that they'll try with Morrissey at some point just to see how that looks?
I don't think anything's off the table. I don't think they're if things go well. DeMello and Morrissey, pardon me, in that chemistry, it's been built over years. But it's nice to know that, like, Iafallo in LA played top line minutes for a long time with Kopitar, and we've seen that in times of need when there's injury or things aren't working, shake it up for a period, a game, who knows. So it's a good point by you, because it's not unfamiliar territory for Luke. You said it. The word is presence. And, what he does, they call him the human eraser, blocking shots, battling net front in the corner. Doesn't matter who, he will not discriminate. And he's not Dustin Byfuglien, but he's Dustin Byfuglien-ish, where he's got that farmer strength, that he's thick. He walks into the room and you cannot help but notice him. And it makes everybody just a little bit more comfortable.
Kevin, when I mentioned the potential of Morrissey, certainly he's going to play lots with Josh, of course, I'm speaking of. He's going to play lots with Dylan DeMello. But I have to admit, I was watching the game last night. I was looking ahead to, even Friday, which we'll get to, but, a playoff series where that opposition is going to be taking every run they can at a player like Josh Morrissey. And frankly, the Winnipeg Jets are going to need him out on the ice as much as possible. I loved Hayden Fleury's game last night. I thought there was a level of confidence playing with Luke Schenn maybe that we hadn't seen in the last little while. But if you have the ability to put Josh Morrissey on a regular shift with Dylan DeMello, and then potentially if you need to get a little more 44 out there, have him go out with Schenn, not to mention the presence that he has on it, I think Josh Morrissey could really benefit from this, even if he's not playing a regular shift with number 5.
It's a great point, and something I haven't really thought about coming into this. So I love that you bring it up, because, no different than sliding Morgan Barron to center ice in the fourth line. It's new. This is the time now to play with some of these things. And what you're saying right there, whether you put Luke on the top pairing or you drop Josh down for an extra one here and there, it gives another look. It gives the other team something to think about. And your team as well, where you're like, listen, man, Josh, you're okay. I got you. And other teams are going to know that, man. When Luke's on the ice, it changes things. It really does. You look at just last night, net front, Schenn went after Rempe in the corner, hit him, and then beat him back to the net. Whistle goes, and Schen's got that low brow staring right into his soul. Now, am I saying he's scared Rempe? I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is all 40 men on both teams saw that, were watching that, and they can see this. Luke is not going to back down from anybody. As a matter of fact, he's going to initiate. That is massive. That kind of stability and like that big brotherhood, it goes a long way. So with Josh, you're right. He's going to be on the ice. He's going to get hit. Josh is good at protecting himself in his own way, but just another place you can go, and you have to be willing to switch things up if they don't work in the playoffs. If you want to win, that's an option.
Kevin Sawyer's with us here in Winnipeg Sports Talk. You mentioned Morgan Barron. One other thing coming out of the trade deadline, and part of it, I guess, was the fact that Kupari was out for a couple games, but you bring Tanev in. Alex Iafallo is not going anywhere in this lineup, and Morgan Barron gets moved to center. We had seen him play very briefly at center early on. What do you think the thought process behind it has been, and how have you liked the look of that fourth line with Tanev and Iafallo on the wings with Barron in the middle?
I've liked it. And this is not an easy time of the year to try something new. Barron's played a little bit of center last year, played center in junior at times, but it's not an easy slide where the responsibilities are a lot more in the center ice position. I would say this. Logan Stanley, throughout the course of the year, listen, I know he gets beat up. And you know what? I respect the fact that the Jets give him runway to get better. He got better in ways slowly. He still makes mistakes, and mistakes, big ones at times. But now you get to the trade deadline, and I think that the Jets, and these are my words, not Scott Arniel's, they're going to dress their best possible lineup to win. Is Logan Stanley on that lineup? No, he's not. And Hayden Fleury is on the ice. I think he should be, because I think he's their next best option. Between Rasmus Kupari and Morgan Barron, now that you have Tanev, if you have to choose between those, Rasmus has been excellent this year. He really has. But I'm not putting him in the lineup over Morgan Barron. So now you have to find somewhere else to go. And I love the fact that Scott Arniel is doing that now. Give him some reps, give him some runway, find out what you need to find out. If it doesn't work, then you've got some other options. But you can't sit Morgan Barron. The way he skates, the way he forward checks, the presence he has in the room, he's well liked. So I like the shift. I like the fact that it shows we are not committed to just one thing. And the same goes for the third line. That third line, best third line in NHL, arguably. But you can't let that stability become a weakness in the sense that, we can't break it up, otherwise we don't know who we are. You have to be able to go to other places. Morgan Barron going to center ice in the fourth line is the right choice. And I see him only getting bigger or better as they go, and that line remains big because of it.
Kev, let's look ahead. We got a heavyweight tilt on Friday night. The Dallas Stars coming in. But I guess just thoughts on that game, where the Jets and the Stars are right now, but also just the new landscape of the Central Division with Brock Nelson not coming to Winnipeg, but going along with Charlie Coyle to Colorado. And, of course, the big guy, Mikko Rantanen, ending up back in the Central now with the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, there's more to think about now. It's certainly changed its complexion. Let's start with Colorado first. There's no question that team got better. But I wonder, it's one thing in the regular season, even this time of the year, to win and be good. But when it gets turbulent, and say you're down in a series, there's something to be said for the reps and the continuity of your room. And they've made such an overhaul. Both their goaltenders are new. They have 5 new forwards. I think they have 2 new D in right now. They've had 12 different guys in and out their door, not to mention a superstar in Rantanen is out. So are they better? No doubt they are. I don't know that I'm as worried about Colorado as I am of Dallas. Dallas is a team that's been pushing for years. They've got 2 games in hand. They trail the Jets by 8 points. We know that. This game coming up on Friday, we've had a few this year that were earmarked. Those back-to-back Florida ones, the Washington Capitals, best on best. Who's better? Jets win that one in Washington. There is no bigger game this year than this one, no doubt. It's a 4-point game. You could argue that, hey, man, first place in the Central Division and the Western Conference is up for grabs. And I think that the Jets need to go into this game pressuring themselves without being pressured up. And the reason I say that is twofold, because of the value of the game, and also because that heat that you feel and that you put on yourself, expectation in an elimination game in the playoffs, is the heat you have to feel and still find a way to be comfortable and perform. Pressure yourself up. This is the biggest game of the year. Don't pretend like it isn't. They know it is. And I'll just say this too with Dallas, and this is, you're going to think maybe I'm crazy. I think Carolina is a better team without Rantanen. And here's why. He's not a better, or he's a way better player than Logan Stankoven, who they got in return for him, plus a couple of first rounders. But the fit and the drive forward, that pace for Colorado, it's a better fit. Nobody knew more about Mikko Rantanen than the Colorado Avalanche. They could have afforded to keep him. They chose not to. That's fine. So what I know for sure is he's a scorer. He's a big body. He's been there. He's won a Stanley Cup. Is he a driver? Does he make that team better by driving? I don't know. Why didn't Colorado keep him? When the game is on the line, is he the difference? Maybe not. I don't know. I still like that kind of us against the world mentality. The Jets didn't get their superstar. We were good anyway. I like it. So there's a lot of backstories behind this one. It is the most, I can't believe they're letting me in for free.
I'll tell you what, I mean, for weeks I've kind of been looking, man, Friday night downtown, the team coming off the road, big divisional game. Well, post-deadline, we get a chance to see Rantanen in for the first time with Dallas. And there's an opportunity here for the Jets. I mean, if you can win this game in regulation and go 10 up, I think you feel pretty good about locking down first place. If it goes the other way, again, I mean, we are in a dogfight right till game 82. And there is a big-time carrot. I mean, with all due respect to the teams that are in that wild card spot, Kev, getting first place and having Colorado and Dallas beat the hell out of each other for 2 weeks before you may see them in the second round, I mean, that's the path to success for the Winnipeg Jets, not having to do that twice.
Isn't that the truth? If you dropped a second, the pressure's already on, an expectation to get out of the first round. But then the fact that you got embarrassed last year in the first round from Colorado, let's just avoid that for now. But just to go back to the value in this game, and it's going to be dealt with the right way, where you win it. It's not a must-win game. You win it, and you get a ton of confidence and an extra bumper on that 4-point game to win the conference. You lose it. The one thing the Jets haven't really had, and they're a desperate team because of the pressure that they put on themselves and the expectation they have on themselves. But running as fast as you can is different than running for your life. And maybe this is the first time all year that the Jets feel the heat because it's actually real and it's not self-imposed. This is the chase and this is the heat that you need to feel going in, battle tested, right? Pressure, sweaty under the collar. Let's go, boys. This is an exciting matchup, and it's a much needed one for a lot of reasons.
I love that line. Running as fast as you can is different than running for your life. I'm going to remember that one, Kevin. Hey, listen, this is an absolute pleasure as always. Enjoy that game on Friday night. Should be a great one, and on the road. And let's do this again soon. Thanks as always for your time.
Very soon. Thanks for having me again, boys.
Appreciate it. All right. Really enjoyed that chat with Kevin Sawyer. Appreciate him jumping on. Of course, he'll be in between the benches Friday night. Jets and the Dallas Stars. We'll chop it up with Murat in just a few minutes. And don't forget Simon Hildebrandt, formerly of the Sea Bears and the U of M, now going to March Madness. He's going to join us from North Carolina a little bit later on. Just before we bring in Murat, let's get to a little fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no fees. When you go to Fans First, you're looking at tickets and you see a price. What you see is what you pay. In stark contrast to most of the other ticketing sites that you've probably dealt with in the past. A great spot as well for season ticket holders if you do have an extra pair of seats. If you do need to move them, great customer service and quick pay in your account, direct deposit the next day. Comet actually dropped this chat in for us. And this is the poll that's going on right now. What is your definition of a successful Jets season? Winning a playoff round, 10%. Making the conference finals, 52%. Stanley Cup final or bust, 36%. And 2% winning the Central Division. The bar has been set high. But you know what? When your team's been in first place all year long, expectations should be high. And I think the Winnipeg Jets are really leaning into those as well. Just seeing a few of the others, just coming from Kevin's chat, Miller Time 1980, Jets versus the world. We love it. And yes, high expectations for peeps on that poll. Going to be very hard. D-Mart says Luke is a truck. And Bobby B mentioning something that we don't talk about often, but you're right. The Jets do need to get a little bit better in the face-off dot. Keep your fan feedback coming. It is brought to you by Fans First. Fansfirst.ca, by fans, for fans, no fees. Just before we bring in Murat, got to give a shout out to our pals Pitt and the gang out at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Spring and summer is just around the corner, everyone. And if you're thinking about staying in Canada this summer, maybe a little bit of a different vacation, why don't you check out one of the jewels of our province, the one-of-a-kind Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, with world-class fly-in fishing opportunities, where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as incredible as the fishing is, The hospitality and the setup at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge is truly one of a kind and even better. Find out more on availabilities and offerings from Aikens Lake online at aikenslake.com, and make sure to check out all their social channels at Aikens Lake for what is in store for you. Can't wait to get out there with Mark, the winner of our auction that we did with the Health Sciences Center Foundation last month. All right, let's talk some hockey. Big win last night. Huge game coming up on Friday. Murat of The Athletic joins us. Murat, how are you doing? Feeling better? You were sort of under the weather last week. Oh, hold on a sec. You're muted. Is that on us, Reem?
One sec. I think you might have to just hit accept. I think we're good.
There we go. I can hear you now. How are you feeling?
That's pretty good. It's took me a little.
Okay, wait one sec. I gotta fix the thing here.
Just a very quick technical bit.
Now we're good.
Now we're good. Sorry for the third time. Are you feeling better?
Yes. In short, the answer is yes. It took me way longer than it should have, but as of yesterday, 3 square meals and life is good again.
That's what we like to hear. It's a big week for the Winnipeg Jets and everyone covering them. Huge game on Friday night, which we'll get to in a minute. And we'll get to the post-trade deadline chatter. But first things first, what were your takeaways from last night's 2-1 win? Debut of Luke Schenn and the first time in person seeing Brandon Tanev in the lineup back home.
Yeah, it was kind of what I would refer to as almost an unsatisfying game. Like the momentum didn't stay fixed in one direction. At times, the Rangers were a dangerous and difficult opponent. At times, Winnipeg had control. But I think for Jets fans, a win is satisfying however it comes. For me, let's start with Luke Schenn because he's the less known commodity around here. I thought that even I had the chance to talk to Scott Arniel about Luke Schenn twice, maybe 3 times before seeing him in action. And he's sort of cautioned, don't underestimate that this guy's going to make some pretty good decisions with the puck to get exits too. And seeing that in person last night, Luke Schenn has a pretty good read of the defensive zone with the puck on his stick. He's not just a bruiser. He's not just a center of the ice cleanup crew. He's not just the blocks and the hits. When the puck ended up on his stick, he made a few, like I'm going to say 3 or 4 by the mid-game point, passes that really smartly relieved pressure in the D zone, helped Winnipeg get going in the other direction. If that's part of his game consistently, I think folks are going to be extremely happy with him on the third pair. I also think it's kind of crickets for him in the offensive zone, but I don't think that was on the expectations list for anybody with his acquisition, and I think that that's fine given what Winnipeg has. Other than that, Brandon Tanev, it's just nice to see that he's Brandon Tanev. The big eyes, the frustration on opponents' faces. Is he automatically the greatest fourth-line player that Winnipeg has? Not necessarily. There's a lot of good players on this team, but he's a fun guy to watch.
Oh, man. I mean, fun is exactly the way. And we were talking about it on the weekend, just after that first game in Jersey where he was in the scrum and the crazy eyes are out there. I'm like, I forgot how much fun it was just having Brandon Tanev on our team. Arnie talked about that fourth line. And it's been interesting seeing Morgan Barron move to the center with what Brandon Tanev brings. To me, the guy that's been the rock on that line, though, is Alex Iafallo. And, Iafallo, I'm not sure there is a more kind of low-key player that is maybe underappreciated for how much he contributes. But, Murat, you look at what he does on the penalty kill. He's a big part of that second power play unit, plays a regular shift, able to move up and down. Like, I think a number of those pieces may change depending on health and availability. And if anything changes with Iafallo on that fourth line, it might be that he moves up a line to potentially line 3 at some point.
Yeah, he's another one of Kevin Cheveldayoff's wins over the last few years. I wrote critically about the deadline, just knowing what they tried to do and didn't get done. But if you look at the body of work over these last few years, every time there's been a trade, it seems like Cheveldayoff has picked up a player who has versatility to his game and who competes for the hard areas of the ice. I think that one of the best things about Alex Iafallo, and then also other recent additions like Niederreiter, Nemesnikov, etc., is that they compete hard. They take no shortcuts. They'll back check all the way to the post. They'll take punishment if they have to. They'll chip in offensively as well. And for me, low key on Alex Iafallo, I like it. He is one of my favorite Jets to talk to in terms of interviews. I caught up with him on the road last week as well. And just the things that this guy is into, the like growing up repairing the engines of the various vehicles his family drove around, road trips to Moab and Utah and all the national parks and all the camping and off-road stuff he does. For me, it just paints a picture of a guy that's not afraid to do things the difficult way. And I think that that's a great attribute to have as a hockey player, especially on this Winnipeg Jets team. I think it's a valuable role that he fills.
Well, you mentioned doing things the difficult way. Jet opponents are going to have a little bit more difficult way to the front of the net with Luke Schenn. How do you see him? How do you see his role progressing? Do you think it might be beyond where he's at right now? And while we're at it, just talking about that third pairing, how did you think Hayden Fleury looked with Schenn as opposed to maybe some of the other times he'd been in the lineup over the last month or two?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll start there. With Hayden Fleury, he kind of got, I want to say, overexposed with Neil Pionk when they were playing a top 4 role when Dylan Samberg was hurt. That's just not going to work. That's a bit above Fleury's pay grade. And it's also, Pionk probably needs Samberg more than the other way around to just solidify things defensively. Clearly, there's a pairing that works there. Fleury, on a third pair basis, has been quality for the Jets and has genuinely been able to sort of handle the role. They didn't win the metrics in terms of shot attempts and things like that. But if you look at the quality of chance and if you look at the blocks that they had, if you look at the middle of the ice, it's sort of evened out. And I think that that's what you're hoping for from that third pair. Luke Schenn is meant to be, and Josh Morrissey, I think, called him that in the post game last night, the human eraser. That's the role. That's the job. He does in front of the net and in the corners what you wished other third pairing defensemen would do. And that's what Logan Stanley is aspiring to get to. Tie up the stick, win the battle, eliminate the body, make the correct read. Schenn's doing that, and that's instant. For me, that's like I believe in that player in terms of that defensive role. His foot speed will cost him at times, for sure, mostly in terms of what he can add at the other end of the rink. I also thought there were moments of confusion between him and some Jets forwards in the offensive zone. And if you look, I think he's got 13 points in his last 139 games. There's a reason that those numbers are so low. They're not going to skyrocket here in Winnipeg. The job that he has is that shutdown role. I think Winnipeg will mostly use him in a third line. But to your question, the same way that the top line suddenly seems to lose Gabriel Velarde and add Alex Iafallo late in games, you might see Josh Morrissey on a D-zone draw lose Dylan DeMello for some of those key moments. And you might see Luke Schenn play alongside Morrissey just for that net front role in high leverage minutes. I think Arniel hinted at it the other day, and I don't think it's going to be too terribly long before he gets a peek at it.
No, I'm with you on that. And part of the reason that I bring it up is that I think we all know that, once things get real come playoff time, NHL teams, whoever the Jets are playing, are going to try and make the Jets pay a price, and in particular their most important players. And Josh Morrissey would be right at the top of that list. Dylan DeMello does a lot of great things playing alongside Josh Morrissey, but he's not in the ballpark of what Schenn brings as far as toughness, physicality, and all that. And I do see a scenario, Murat, and this is no slight on Hayden Fleury, but we could get to a point where Josh Morrissey's pushing 26, 27 minutes. You've got Pionk and Samberg playing a regular shift. Dylan DeMello maybe being 18 or 19, and Luke Schenn playing his shift on the third pairing, and then, as you mentioned, also going out at times. Maybe it's high leverage, maybe when things are getting a little rougher, and playing alongside Morrissey. It's important to note he played a lot with Morgan Riley in a similar role with the Leafs.
Yeah, and that, I don't know if it was the Leafs' expectation going in to talk to people in Toronto, but he ended up filling that role. And I think that everyone who I've spoken to who's covered the Maple Leafs or even who was a part of that organization were just so thrilled with how Schenn handled those elevated minutes, sort of playing that role alongside Morgan Riley. That's the blue sky. And I think of the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs of late, it's been some of those net front battles that have really burned them. Like, not to overplay the Colorado series, but you watched the Avalanche speed open up the middle of the ice. McKinnon flies into the zone, cuts back, they find a second wave, puck gets to the net, and then what happens? Time after time, you had Hildebrandt getting beaten by rebounds, by deflections, by all those sort of gritty, dirty area of the ice sorts of things. And I think that Schenn's job is going to be to help cement that, or help eliminate those chances and keep things clear in front of that. Part of that is going to be depending on who is on the ice for the opposition. If it's Arturi Lehkonen or Valeri Nichushkin of Colorado, for example, you're definitely going to want that element because he'll do it better than, say, a Dylan DeMello would. I think that that's very, very real. Coaches are smart. They run their benches the way they want to. You might see him listed on the third pair and then not have the sixth, or maybe even on some nights the fifth most minutes played by the end of the night, depending on how things play out.
Murat, one other thing coming out of last night that I wanted to single out was Cole Perfetti. He was the first star of the game, was in on both of the goals. Seems to be playing right now with the level of confidence that I'm not sure we've seen before. And he, in a lot of ways, is driving that line. I thought Ehlers was incredible in the first period, but Cole had a full 60-minute game where he was, tough on pucks. He was winning battles and then doing what he can do in the offensive zone. Just your thoughts on Cole Perfetti today, the player, as opposed to a year ago today when he was struggling to stay in the lineup.
Yeah, if I can be short with it, it's what I expected, right? Like, it's what I talked about throughout the summer, into the autumn, all of that sort of stuff. This tracks for a player of his skill set. His read of the game is elite. The way that he breaks apart time and space with just his hockey IQ and what he sees in terms of options available to him is actually elite. It's his foot speed that stops him from being, a first-line all-star type of player. It's his physical size that stops him from that. But that elite hockey IQ has revealed itself as his confidence has built, as his opportunity has built as well. Scott Arneal's shown belief in him, keeping him on that second power play unit, bumping him up to the first power play unit when Ehlers was unavailable at various times. This is the trajectory for this player. And he's also, and this is something I talked to Marty Johnson about earlier today, he's added strength to his game, which also needed to happen and I think was reasonably projectable. And that's helping him win those battles on the wall. His quickness is there, even if he's not a burner skating-wise. His quickness in small areas helps him win pucks along the wall. His read of the game helps him commit to the back checks, like the one he made last night before his end-to-end rush in the third period as well. There are a lot of things to like about this player, and he's getting faster and stronger as time goes by. So what you have is a viable top six forward with power play ability, who doesn't cheat the game, who plays it the right way. Yes, he continues to give up size to many players and speed to some, but this is Cole Perfetti's emergence and arrival as a top six forward, right on schedule, as predicted, as written, as said. This is the player.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we always knew that he had the chops, he had the hockey IQ. Like, for me, it's the fight in his game and his willingness and ability to not just battle, but win those battles. And, and a lot of that comes with experience. It comes with maturation. It comes with growth. And, Perfetti's ticked off all of those boxes. And that is a great thing for the Jets. Well, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about how that second line might look post-deadline. It looked the same last night. Vlad's still in the middle. Plenty of talk about the Jets' big push at Brock Nelson. Now that we're a few days removed from the deadline, looking back, Murat, and I know you wrote to this, that, it was somewhat a disappointment because it was quite clear that they were looking to add at that point. But obviously that didn't happen. How do you think the Jets came out of it with Brandon Tanev and Luke Schenn as their adds? And, other than that, the team standing pat before we get to what happened in the rest of the division.
Yeah, I mean, when a team sets out to upgrade at a particular spot, identifies a particular player who does ultimately get moved, engages in negotiations with another team, pushes forward, builds a package, and at one point even feels confident that they're going to acquire the player and then does not, that is a disappointment. That is a swing taken and missed, whatever the ultimate reason was. Whatever the outcome ends up being in the spring, Winnipeg tried to upgrade at second line center and failed to do it. The disappointment was palpable when talking to Kevin Cheveldayoff on Friday and sort of observing the pro scouts, other management in the tunnels in New Jersey where we were at the time. They tried and they didn't manage to upgrade that. Okay, that's fine. That is a reality. And maybe all the effort that they put into the Nelson situation changed what they were able to do otherwise. If Nelson doesn't want to play in Canada, or if Nelson doesn't want to play in Winnipeg, or merely prefers Colorado, forget him if you're a Jets fan. The Winnipeg Jets did add players who fill roles and add depth in a meaningful way. We've talked about Luke Schenn, and I really do believe in his ability to defend the net front and make good enough exit decisions to help contribute defensively. That's a player type you would really like for Winnipeg. Yeah, you'd love it if he was a little bit faster, a little bit younger, etc. But he's going to get that job done by and large. Brandon Tanev as well, the energy. One more player who sort of doesn't he's sort of like a get out of my way, F you for being here type of player, and he really gets under team's skin. I think he'll draw penalties, and that will be one of his biggest advantages in addition to all the energy. These are sensible additions for the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, they paid market price, which was expensive this year. Fine. That happens. A team that goes deep needs more than 12 forwards, more than 60. I think that those are sensible additions. I think Winnipeg will ultimately feel all right about its situation. And that's it. The plan wasn't to leave cap space unspent. The plan wasn't to leave second line center upgraded. But if you look at the Winnipeg Jets as they stand here today, they did improve their team a little, and they're a quality team with genuine Stanley Cup aspirations. They've been that, they remain that, they will continue to be that. Our eyes are all on the playoffs, and they have a good shot to do way more damage this year than last or the year before.
You know, let me ask you about deadline day, because of course we all got the proverbial kick to the junk, or Jets fans at least did, and Jets management on the night before when Nelson was moved to the Avalanche of all teams. You know, we had the extended stream. Luke Schenn was acquired by the Winnipeg Jets. We naturally started talking about the rumors that maybe the Schenn brothers would be reunited together. We talked about Ryan O'Reilly for a long time. He never ended up going anywhere, never mind Winnipeg. Scott Lawton was the other guy out there that ended up going for basically a first in a package to the Leafs. And I think we talked about, is that a big upgrade over what Vlad is right now? And I'm not sure that it would have been. I did think that they would still add maybe one more player, just almost as an insurance policy if something happens to those guys in the top six. But was there a player or two that was on your radar for the Jets that didn't move or they weren't able to get? Or was this a matter of part of the reason why we talk so much about Brock Nelson is that there was him, and then there seemed there was such a big drop-off between anyone else that was rumored to be up for grabs?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. And when you heard Kevin Cheveldayoff talk about like players who seemed to be available that weren't and all that sort of stuff, I think it might be fair to at least consider Braden Schenn in that group, for example. St. Louis, you know, they could be the team Winnipeg ends up playing in the first round, actually. Like, it might not be Calgary, Vancouver, etc. St. Louis is doing some good things. So it makes sense to me that they would want to keep that player. And it might make sense to me, too, that, you know, Schenn and everything that he's done over there would want to stay and see what he can do with the St. Louis Blues. Ryan O'Reilly as well. Believe me, I think he would have been a wonderful addition. But obviously Nashville keeping him is sensible. They just outlaid how much money on how many players to upgrade, and they've got Marchessault and Stamkos. Like, are they going to pull the plug on all of that by getting rid of Ryan O'Reilly, who's got a great contract and years on it as well? That makes sense to me too. I would add to that list, by the way, Jared McCann, who is a player that was discussed in this market. I think a lot of fans really enjoyed the idea of the addition, a real quality 5-on-5 centerman. Lots to like about his game. But the more I poked around about him, the less available that he became as well. So I think that I think that based on what league sources were telling me on that day, maybe the availability discussed heading into the day was greater than the availability on the day itself.
Yeah, no, that is what it seemed to be. And there's a couple telling quotes from Chevy based on guys who seemed to be were available, weren't. And then, of course, decisions made outside of their control, which brings us to now. I mean, you move forward with the team that has been on top of the standings all season long. If you thought they were the best team before the deadline, how much, in your opinion, Murat, did Colorado and Dallas close the gap with their acquisitions?
Yeah, the gap was closed. And, I actually have a piece at The Athletic today, which is getting a wider audience than usual. A lot of Avs fans, a lot of Dallas Stars fans. And what we're doing is sizing up the Central Division based on, okay, well, who's got the most elite number one center? Who's got the best defenseman? Who's got the best goalie? His name is Connor Hellebuyck. But you go on through the list and you size these teams up. If you go straight by the standings, obviously Winnipeg has earned the right to be talked about as number one. If you put the Dallas Stars at full health and Tyler Seguin comes back at his peak, which is not a guarantee, if Miro Heiskanen comes back at his peak, probably the Dallas Stars have a greater collection of top-end talent in a lot of ways. But then the Colorado Avalanche have the best center in the division, and Nathan MacKinnon. They have Cale Makar as well, the best defenseman in the division as well. So we parsed this out and went step by step, position by position. I think, first of all, what I think is that all three teams are great. There's no paper tiger in the group. I think that it's going to be one of the most memorable playoffs in the Central Division that I can think of. It's a shame that two teams are probably going to play each other in the first round, unless you're Winnipeg and you're watching them beat up on each other and then you get whoever's left from
exactly.
It's just such a quality division. I think that either one of these three teams could emerge from it. I do give the Stars the edge if Mikko Rantanen can show up and be the type of player that he's shown that he can be basically everywhere but Carolina. That's Colorado and then his start in Dallas. But there's a really compelling argument for all three of these teams, depending on the lens that you carry.
Yeah, and that is what is going to make it so interesting down the stretch. And to your point, I mean, the Jets, and why last night, I mean, I talked to a bunch of fans after the game, just leaving the building, and there was a sense of a relief almost. People were excited about the game, and, it was a great atmosphere in the building. But the thought of Dallas coming to town on Friday after being off all week, back 6 points with a head-to-head game and 2 games in hand, it's certainly made Jet fans, I think, a little more nervous than they would have been, a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about Rantanen for a minute, because, I mean, Dallas was a stacked team already. They've had great playoff success the last couple of years coming out of the Central. This is a big swing, and they trade a young player that has a great future, who was already contributing to the team in Stankoven. They move off of 2 first-round picks, and I would argue that the picks are even more valuable to Dallas, who drafts as well as anybody in the league, than they would be elsewhere. And they get a guy that has been a superstar in this league, but did not look the same in Carolina. What do we expect, or what are the questions that you have about Rantanen's fit in Dallas now that he's a star for this year and presumably 8 more?
Yeah, I guess my question is, have we all been too quick to write him off, right? Like, this is a player who I think remains on pace for his 3rd straight 100-point season. The year before that, before he hit 100, it was 92 points, and the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. This is a player who has been extremely productive. He was one of Colorado's more dangerous players against Winnipeg last year, although I have time for the argument that Arturi Lehkonen and Valeri Nichushkin were as effective as the Nathan MacKinnons and Cale Makars of the world last year against Winnipeg specifically, for how they battle to the front of the net. So he shows up, Rantanen, in Carolina. The production certainly doesn't match his history. We see him ultimately sign a really big deal in Dallas, and he's set to become the highest paid winger in the National Hockey League. at a time that just because we've watched him sort of struggle to produce points for Carolina, it almost seems like his star is fading. And maybe was he just a product of Nathan MacKinnon? Was Landeskog what was boosting that team the whole time? Was it not Mikko Rantanen? And I think that maybe, if I had to guess, I think that public perception has swayed too far on this guy. Yes, it's going to be a challenge, an adjustment period to go and get over getting traded twice, find a new team, new line mates after playing so long with the same ones in Colorado. It's not a guarantee he's that 100-point type player in Dallas. But if I can just judge based on the things I've read and seen online and all that, my biggest question about him is actually if we're underselling him as opposed to if he's overrated.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how the fit looks. I mean, once he gets going. And again, Roope Hintz, this is a bit of a break for the Jets. Roope Hintz took one in the face on Sunday night against the Vancouver Canucks. I was seeing that they've said that he's out for a week. So right now it's Wyatt Johnson in the middle of Jamie Benn and Mikko Rantanen on that top line. And then Duchesne playing with Granlund and Jason Robertson on the left. All of this speaks to the importance for the Winnipeg Jets to lock it down and win the Central Division, Murat, because I think we'd all agree that based on the article that's up today at The Athletic, you can make an argument for all of those three teams. I don't think there's any question that the benefit of playing the second wildcard team is a hell of a lot different than matching up against the second or third place team in the Central.
Yeah, maybe as much this year as it's ever been.
For sure.
The urgency. Like, you even think about last year's playoffs, right? Winnipeg got smoked by Colorado. It led to the 5 to 10% discussion that we talked about all summer and soul searching on the organization. It's part of the motivation that's helped the Jets reach new heights. But that Avalanche team that smoked Winnipeg went out and lost in 6 games to the Dallas Stars. They got beaten overtime in game 6. So, okay, Dallas had all the momentum. And because of what they had to go through, perhaps, to get to where they were, also in part because Edmonton was a great team, the Stars weren't even able to get out of the Western Conference. Like, there is a slugfest probably even beyond that shaping up in the first round of this playoffs. I think in the second round as well, when the winner of each series sort of goes on to play each other. This is going to be, in my opinion, one of those cases where we in the media hype up the importance of finishing first and hype up just the degree to which that presumably Stars Avalanche series is going to be a dogfight. And it's going to be satisfying because it's going to be one where we were right to do so. I don't think there's going to be any misses in this division. And Winnipeg's route to good health, good momentum, all those types of things that get you through multiple rounds of the playoffs, way more palatable if they're going through a first-round opponent that's not named Dallas or Colorado on their way to the second round.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even know what those teams will look like after a series like that, and you can say that same about pretty much every team, which is why we've talked a lot about the depth that you need in your locker room and in your organization to make the distance of 4 rounds. One other thing to note about that Dallas-Colorado series, and I think everyone that watched Winnipeg-Colorado would realize, and you made the point, Nichushkin absolutely murdered the Jets last year, and I'm trying to think of when exactly he was no longer available, but I think it was early in that series with Dallas, and when it came down to crunch time in that game 6, he was a massive hole in their lineup.
Yeah, facts. It's it's funny because of how dominant Nichushkin was in the middle of the ice against Winnipeg, and then also Lehkonen to a lesser degree, that if you're Winnipeg trying to take playoff lessons, it's about the sacrifice and physicality in the middle of the ice. And that's, I talked about that with respect to Luke Schenn. There's a lesson you could take about Winnipeg in the playoffs, that as good as they are, as strong as their team defense is systemically, there is a level to get to in terms of battle level and compete in all of those intangibles that coaches harp upon in the middle of the ice, in the most dangerous places, that Winnipeg actually hasn't gotten to in the last couple of playoff rounds. So, like, that Nichushkin point is great. He was a great example of something Winnipeg couldn't handle and will need to handle at some point, one imagines. It's also another reason why it's incumbent upon the Jets to finish in first, because as good as they are, and I believe that they're a great team, as good as they are on paper, and as good as the system is, they're going to need to learn some hard lessons over the course of any deep playoff run that they make. They're going to have to overcome battles in the middle of the ice that they haven't won in recent playoffs. And I think that a lot of the getting punched in the mouth and sort of overcoming it and becoming a better playoff team, I think that's an easier stepping stone against the St. Louis Blues or whomever than Nichushkin and the Avalanche or Rantanen and the Stars.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, God knows we've talked a lot about last year's series against Colorado. But that like what Nichushkin did was just so significant in so many ways. Like, listen, I think that from game 1 on, like game 2 through 5, the Avalanche were better than the Jets in every way. I mean, they were faster. Like, I don't really think that they out-toughed the Jets, but I will say this, the point you're making, I mean, the amount of deflections and the amount of time that they had in front of the net to jump on loose pucks was a huge problem for the Winnipeg Jets. And that, circling back, I think is a big reason why hopes are as high as they are for the effect that Luke Schenn can have on the middle of the ice, which was not a strength of Winnipeg last playoffs.
Yeah, step 1 was carve the Jets apart with speed, open up space. Step 2 was get the puck to the net where if you were Colorado, you believed you were going to win that battle. Tips, rebounds, whatever it was, you thought you were going to do it, and you did. The Avalanche picked the Jets apart that way. And no, Luke Schenn is not an all-star at this stage of his life, and no, he's not going to play all 60 minutes of whatever game, but he does identify that skill set. He really does represent and embody. I think a lot of players get credit for being tough and physical in front of the net and tying up sticks and boxing out and things like that. But a lot of the times we just do that and we look at, he's big, so he's got to be good at it. In Schenn's case, he actually is good at it. It's the physicality and the positioning and the read of the play and knowing when to tie up a stick and when to tie up the body and all that sort of stuff. He actually does the thing that you hoped other players would do. And certainly the Jets gave Stan and others a long window to become that player this year. But Schenn is that guy and, makes him a valuable add, I think, for the Jets.
Murat, before we go, all this leads to Friday night, 7:00 puck drop, Dallas Stars and Jets. High stakes game. I mean, things could be more comfortable for the Winnipeg Jets or basically right back in the middle of a dogfight of a team that's chasing with a couple games in hand.
Yeah, it's funny. Marty Johnson today sort of tried to say, guys will get excited for it, but we're approaching it the same way as any other game. Kevin Sawyer asked, can it be used as a motivator? And he really tried to downplay it, that this was not that. I don't understand how it could be anything but that. You have a chance. It's a 4-point game, right? You have a chance to keep the Stars away from you. You have a chance to assert yourself as the quality team that you believe that you are. It's a divisional game all the same, no matter how good any team was. And it almost reminds me of, was it 2018, shortly after the Paul Stastny acquisition, the Jets played against the Nashville Predators, who they would ultimately go on and beat in 7 games. And that was a back and forth game. Lots was happening. A lot of the new acquisitions played great. Stastny was a big part of it. I think the Nashville Predators ultimately won that game, but it showed to me at the time in the Central Division that these two teams were really, perhaps the class of the NHL in that one particular moment. And it could be that same thing again with the Stars and Jets as good as they are. So, yeah, I've got it circled on my calendar. And, great that it's a home game. Great that the building will be as full as it'll be. This is the fun part, and it's only going to get more fun as spring rolls along.
Murat, always great having you on the program. Again, get on over to theathletic.com. The article is Which Team Has the Edge in the NHL's ultra-competitive Central Division? A great breakdown of the Jets, Avalanche, Dallas Stars post-trade deadline, and a great primer for a matchup between the top 2 teams in the Central on Friday night at Canada Life Center. Murat, great having you on as always. Thanks for doing this, pal, and we'll see you at the rink.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
There's Murat Atesh, again, theathletic.com and at WPG Murat on X. Always interacting with fans as well. Listen, let me throw this out to the chat. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray? How big, like in your opinion, how massive of a game is this for the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars for that matter? Part of it is obviously, the majority of it is the standings and, what a regulation win would do for either team. But also considering that there is one more matchup between these teams in Dallas in early April, how much stock do you put in this the first time to see Winnipeg, with their full complement going up against Dallas, who will, albeit, be without Rupi Hintz and Heiskanen, and we'll see whether Heiskanen and Sagan, as Murat mentioned, will be back early in the playoffs or at what point. Let us know in the chat. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Hey, shout out to Greg and the guys over at Royal Sports. Did see last night that they just got in the Four Nations Canada Champions hats. So if you want to pump your chest and wear the maple leaf on your head with the hats that the players were wearing in the dressing room and at the party after the game there in Boston, those are available right now, in addition to the biggest selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise to get you ready for the playoffs, Bomber gear for the upcoming season, Blue Jays garb with the baseball first pitch just around the corner, and of course the biggest hockey section in town, stocked and staffed by hockey players to help you get the best fit for whatever you need. For over 50 years, it's Royal Sports, and don't sleep on all the cool stuff over on the Kings skate, snow, and surf side. What you're going to want to do is also give them a follow at Royal Sports Winnipeg on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information, and pop by and see them in person down at 750 Pembina Highway. Friday night, I expect we'll have a packed building, and I expect we will have packed Boston Pizza lounges and sports bars throughout the city, with everybody glued to the big game between Winnipeg and Dallas. Coming up in, I guess 8 days, a week tomorrow, we're going to be doing a little on-location WST watch party with Boston Pizza and Little Brown Jug over at Boston Pizza Garden City for the Jets-Oilers matchup, 8 o'clock puck drop. I know a couple people have already inquired about reserving tables. Certainly you can get in touch there if you're bringing a group and you want to make sure you have room for everyone. Otherwise, join the Winnipeg Sports Talk gang down at BP Garden City. Save the date, a week tomorrow, March 20th, 8 p.m. game against the Edmonton Oilers. In the meantime, you want the great taste of Boston Pizza? Pop in tonight. World famous gourmet pizzas, the wings, the schooners. And if you are staying at home, you can get the entire BP menu by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And of course, that BP watch party will be brought to you in part and connected with our friends at Little Brown Jug, who are now in select Boston pizzas. And speaking of Little Brown Jug, before we bring in Simon Hildebrandt to talk about going to March Madness next week, let's give a big shout out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
As we mentioned on yesterday's show, we have not one but two Winnipeggers in March Madness. And one you're quite familiar with if you've been with us on the program for the last few years or following the Winnipeg Sea Bears. Winnipeg's own Simon Hildebrandt going to the dance with his new home at High Point University. He joins us now down from North Carolina. Simon, great to have you back on WST, and congratulations for getting to the big tourney.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Always great to catch up. I'll ask you about the year overall and the move down to the NCAA, but tell us about just the past couple of weeks winning this conference championship and what the vibe is around with you and your teammates about going to March Madness next week.
Yeah, it's been unreal. Ever since I was a kid, back in middle school, sneaking my phone and watching March Madness under my desk during class and stuff like that. This has been just a lifelong dream of mine. So kind of the opportunity that I'm going to get to play in it is I'm still trying to grasp it, Yeah, and I think this team, we kind of knew when we first got here and started practicing that, like, we really have something special. Just the way we've kind of all connected and we all play together and how unselfish we are. Like, we kind of knew, like, just kind of having a good conference year and just that wasn't going to be enough for this team. So I think we have like the longest active win streak in Division I. We've won like 14 in a row or something like that. And we just won our conference tournament. We were down 15 with 15 minutes left and came back and won. So we kind of showed that we can come together and battle through that kind of adversity too. And I really think we got the team that can make a run at this thing and win a couple of games.
I didn't realize you guys were down as much as you were in that last game. I mean, those sort of things can only give you more confidence, especially when you've been winning as much as you have been so far this year. Listen, for a lot of people, we haven't seen you since you finished up Seabears season. Tell us about the move from the University of Manitoba to the NCAA. How did you end up at High Point?
Yeah, like it was a really tough decision for me. Like, I had everything I wanted and more at the U of M. It was such a good fit. I love my teammates, my coaches, everything about it. Obviously, I could keep playing in the CBL for the Seabears in the summer. So I've always had last 2 years, like, these Division I coaches kind of reaching out to me and expressing their interest. And I always kind of said, yeah, like, thank you. But for me to leave my perfect situation right now, it has to be something that I see is like a perfect fit down there and just checks every possible box. And so High Point kind of reached out like earlier in the summer. And after like doing some research on it, I was like, you know what? I kind of just felt like, hey, if I'm going to do this, this seems like the place to go. Like, it's like a super high academic school. I'm a business student. That was important for me. They had a really good team and had a chance to compete to go to March Madness, which is also a big thing for me. I wasn't going to kind of leave the Bisons and go to a team that was going to be terrible just so I could go play Division I. And I felt like I would have a good role. I didn't want to go somewhere where I wasn't going to play and, do nothing, but, be a good team. So it checked all my boxes for me. And then I kind of worked through all the eligibility stuff in the summer because I played in the CBL. I had to figure some of that stuff out, and it all worked out, and now I'm down here.
How has the transition been for you, and how did the regular season go for you? Obviously, it's going pretty well right now for you and your teammates, but just the season overall, was it what you expected, and how did it go?
Yeah, it's been really good. I had a little bit of a tough start. I had an injury and I ended up missing our first 10-ish games, so I had to kind of come back middle of the season and try to find my role and adjust to that. But yeah, it's been really good, and I feel like my game translates down here, and the coaches and my teammates have done a really good job of helping me get acclimated to the NCAA style, which is like a little bit different than playing FIBA in Canada. Like, there's a couple little rule changes here and there, and they officiated like a little bit differently, a couple little tweaks in the rules. So it's been good, and I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it a little more.
Simon Hildebrandt is with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk before dancing in March Madness next week with High Point University, who just won their conference championship last week. Well, what's it like off the court? I mean, you mentioned this is a good academic school. Is it a big city, a big town? Where are you at, and how different has it been compared to a Winnipeg winter?
Yeah, I mean, High Point's not a huge town, but it's got some big cities around it, so you can still get that big city kind of vibe if you want. But High Point University is, on all these reviews, one of the best universities in America. Like, if you Google it, this place is like a resort. It's like we got like everything you can imagine on campus here, like pools, gated community, and it's been unbelievable. And like I said too, it's one of the top academic schools, which was definitely a big thing for me. I wanted to leave my college basketball career with a good degree that I can use when I'm finished playing basketball somewhere. So,
well, I know you're still focusing on schoolwork, as all student athletes do, but this is the pinnacle. I mean, you mentioned that you've been watching and dreaming of March Madness. What was it like just being with the boys on the bus afterwards, knowing that you guys were going to the dance?
Yeah, like I don't actually know if it's even hit me yet. Obviously, like we're excited, and we've been hanging out a lot and like talking about it. But I think I'll feel it a little more on Selection Sunday when we all kind of sit together and we actually see ourselves in the draw and going against somebody and where we're playing and all that, and just seeing us in the bracket. Like it still doesn't feel real.
So I guess, I mean, obviously we've seen the selection show for you, and the fellas, the entire team will get together. Will probably have a camera on you guys, and then your name will go up and you'll find out your first round opponent. And then I imagine there's a lot of things that have to happen very quickly. I mean, you're talking about travel. I mean, behind the scenes, but for you guys, you have a pretty limited amount of time to get ready for that first game and knowing who you're playing against.
Yeah, so selection show is Sunday night or Sunday late afternoon, something like that. We'll have like a huge watch party. I think we're going to try to pack the arena and everything and put it up on the Jumbotron. And then, I don't know, like the first games are Thursday, Friday. So we'll find out Sunday. Probably practice Monday and maybe leave Tuesday. I don't exactly know how it's all going to work. But yeah, definitely a quick turnaround. And kind of all go from there.
Well, I know that there'll be a lot of us that'll be waiting for that bracket to see what upsets we can pick, and if we can maybe get High Point University going on a little bit of a run. One thing that we mentioned this yesterday with Joey Slattery, the only downside of this, and obviously this is going to be an incredible experience, in March Madness, but with one more year of eligibility, it does look like you're probably going to have to take a 1-year leave from the Sea Bears just because of eligibility rules down south.
Yeah, like I don't think I'm going to be able to play this next summer. With all the NCAA rules and regulations, it was something that I kind of knew when I decided to make the jump from U of M down here that it was something I might have to give up for a year. But with only one more year, it would just be one summer that I would miss, and then I'll be graduated and then able to come back and play in Winnipeg, hopefully.
I know you'll be back, and I'm sure part of that big Sea Bears opener, which will be, a great start to the season, of which Winnipeg's hosting the championship. It'll also be a real sad day, and I just had to ask you, being, one of the faces of the Sea Bears in their first 2 years as a local guy, we saw so many community events, not to mention on the court, with Big Chad Posthumous, and just his tragic passing just rocked the basketball world. I know we've had a little bit of time, but I'm sure this is something that's still hurt you and everyone involved in the Sea Bears organization, just because of what a special person Chad was and how integral he was in really building the game up in our city.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, I had the privilege of getting to know Chad pretty well. And as amazing as he was on the court, he was so much more off the court for the Sea Bears. He was really the head of everything we did in the community and giving back, and that was such a huge part of who he was. And so it's tragic what happened to him, but I'll be at that home opener in May, and I'm excited to see what the organization can do to honor him and his legacy that he's created here in Winnipeg.
Well, legacy is exactly the word. On the court was one thing, and he had an incredible pro career and represented Winnipeg and Canada around the world. But what he did, especially the last couple of years, anybody that's involved with the Sea Bears would tell you the exact same thing, and we'll miss him greatly. But in the meantime, an exciting time for Winnipeg. By the way, do you know Kyler Filowich, the other Winnipeg guy that's in March Madness?
I've gotten to know Kyler fairly well over the last couple of years. I was watching this game when they clinched it and won their tournament, and I'm so excited that a chance for us to do something special as two Winnipeggers are in it this year.
Well, we'll have to we'll see where the draw works out. Maybe just keep on running, and we'll get a Wofford High Point championship game in the tourney. Hey, Simon, thanks for taking the time. We'll all be looking forward to the selection show on Sunday. wishing you guys luck. And as I say, I think there's going to be a lot of high points circled on the brackets from people in Winnipeg as we get into March Madness. But good luck. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Of course. Take care. Thank you.
This year having a little bit of local content and a couple teams to legitimately pull for, as opposed to teams we don't watch a second of all year long, and then of course are pulling for them in the hopes that we win our bracket. We'll do another bracket challenge next week on the program too, so make sure to stick around and stay with us for that. Hey, a couple NFL notes just before we get to the Coolbet lines. Aaron Rodgers is being cut today by the New York Jets. They're going to designate it as a post-June 1 cut. This is kind of CBA stuff, but they'll save $14 million on the cap next year. They're taking on a lot of dead money, but they're moving on from Aaron Rodgers. He is rumored to be a potential option for either the Giants or the spot I think makes the most sense, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, Sam Darnold is now with Seattle, and former Chargers defensive end Joey Bosa, I'm seeing sources saying that he's agreed to a 1-year deal for $12.6 with the Buffalo Bills. Couple other things to note. DeAndre Hopkins, who came over in that trade to the Chiefs, is going to Baltimore to play for the Ravens at $5 million a year. We'll get Hacks on Friday and do a full recap of the first week of NFL free agency. All right, let's get over to Coolbet and get ready for the Coolbet lines. Fun lock shop today. For those of you that bet golf, the second half of today's show was all of our picks for the Players' Championship, which gets underway tomorrow at TPC Sawgrass. Special new promo at Coolbet for any of you folks that like to bet golf. You've got one bet each week where you'll get a 30% profit boost up to $100. I used mine on Ludwig Oberg. And it's funny, some huge line movement today, and unlike any I've seen. Scotty Scheffler was 4-1. He's now plus 550. Rory McIlroy was 750 out of the gate. He's at 14-1 right now. Oberg's at 16. But a couple of other huge moves, like Justin Thomas, who I do like this week, was 20. He's now at 28. So Pat Cantlay was 22-1. He's at 40 now. Shane Lowry went from 28 to 40. And maybe the one that surprised me the most, Wyndham Clark, who was runner-up last year, has played well so far this season, is now 80-1. So anyways, all the outrights are there. You got Make the Cuts. We've got Corey Connors plus 230 to be the top Canadian. A large selection of options right now. But whatever your favorite bet is, you click that green box when you're making it and add the 30% profit boost. I ended up putting $25 on Ludwig Oberg and maxed out the bonus if he wins with an extra $100. So that is all there right now. Couple guys I do like, as I mentioned, Oberg, Justin Thomas, Shane Lowry, and we've got a partner parlay as well cooked up. Top 20s for Lowry, Ludwig Oberg, and Sepp Straka. We did put together a little 18-hole betting parlay for tomorrow. And then we've got a hockey ticket today. I'm not sure. Yeah, here it is. Detroit over Buffalo, Calgary over Vancouver, and Utah minus 1.5 against the Ducks. That's in the combo cards. And that is boosted up to plus 484. As far as those games go tonight and what the odds are right now, it looks like this. Buffalo plus 125 at Detroit, minus 147. Same number for Vancouver and Calgary. Vancouver plus 125. Calgary minus 147. Utah's a big minus 278 favorite on the Ducks. Ducks just gave up 7 at home last night to Washington. And the Kraken minus 149 favorites against the Montreal Canadiens. Devastating loss for Vancouver last night, Reem, to Montreal at home, knowing they were traveling, going to Calgary today. What a huge opportunity for Calgary to kind of really strengthen their grip on that final playoff spot.
Yeah, we've seen Vancouver's like a tale of two teams when Quinn Hughes is on and off the ice, and he was not in, although Phil Hronek, I think he had a goal and assist last night. But Vancouver's home record, not great this year. 13, 12, and 7. I mean, they have as many wins at home as the Chicago Blackhawks. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Just so much off-ice stuff with Vancouver after such a great year last year, won a playoff round. So there they are in the chase behind Calgary. I mean, we'll see who gets in, but whoever is going to finish number 1 in the West will have a much easier matchup than if they finished number 2.
Yeah, Bruce asking, Feinberg's down in Florida, so I let him do his little holiday with the fam. But yeah, and we haven't had Dubs on for a long time. Well, maybe we'll see if we can get one of the guys on to talk about the first round of the players tomorrow. Of course, our focus is going to be locked in on the Jets Stars game on Friday night. I know Weber's going to jump on tomorrow, so we'll look forward to that. But again, just as far as the players go, Coolbet.com, the odds, many of them just went up, so this is a great time to get in if you've been waiting to make your play. If you haven't played at Coolbet before, use the promo code WST when you're making your first deposit for a 100% bonus up to $200. And good luck with those wagers. Oh, and one other thing while we're talking about the Players' Championship. I did set up a DraftKings contest for the tournament. So if you haven't, Remo, I don't know can you put a link into our league in the chat? We haven't mentioned that for a long time. Just in
I
case.
can do it right now.
Yeah, see, we'll throw a link in there. If you want to join us, it's $3, top five win. And as I said, I did get a couple copies of PGA 2K 25 from our friends at 2K. So if you win the DraftKings contest, I'll give you the choice of either a PS5 copy or a Steam copy for your PC if you do like to partake. And again, if you win, you're just going to have to hit us up because we can't DM through DraftKings. But I wanted to have a little special carrot there for our folks, and we'll have another code to give away next week coming out of the Players' Championship. Remo, a couple days off with no games. We can do a little scoreboard watching and at least breathe a little easier after that win last night, knowing the Jets are back up to 8 on Dallas, despite Dallas having, even if Dallas does have 2 games in hand.
Yeah, a couple games tonight. As you mentioned, Canucks, Flames. I mean, as far as playoff implications, I don't know. Utah hosting the Ducks, Red Wings, Sabres. I guess Red Wings are battling. Kraken, Canadians will see the Kraken next week. No Ovechkin tonight. He did play in Anaheim. And how about Ovi passing up on the empty net goal to give it to Alexei Protas for his first career hat trick? Ovi paying it forward. And hey, speaking of empty nets, actually, I was convinced last night that Connor Hellebuyck was going to score an empty net goal.
Oh, when I was yelling, shoot it!
Okay,
shoot it!
They pulled the goal with like 2 minutes left. And Hellebuyck not exactly known for his puck handling until like this year. We talked about how it's so much better. But he had a chance at the end to go for it and then just, shoveled it behind the net to Sandberg. But there was one play where Sandberg had the puck, no one around him, and I'm like yelling, pass it to Helly. What are you doing? Pass it to Helly. Like, I know it was a 1-goal game, but come on. Hey, I don't know, got to go for it. How much? Like, there was no one around. They could have just passed it to Helly. Could have shot it all the way down the ice.
One thing that I've never seen, has never happened in Jets history, a goalie goal. I mean, if that had happened last night, that would definitely be next level celebration inside the rink. Hellebuyck has done just about everything,
yes,
except score a goal. And of course, we know what's the number one thing on his list, and that's win the Stanley Cup. Obviously, a lot of work to be done to achieve that. But just quickly, just on the playoff race, if you're a Leaf fan, Waiters is pumped. Big loss by the Panthers last night in regulation to the Bruins. And the Tampa Bay Lightning took an L to the Hurricanes as well. So that's going to be a tight, very similar to the Central Division with 3 really good teams, and 2 of them are going to go head-to-head in the first round. Anyways, check out the combo cards, partner parlay, everything we've got for the golf up at Coolbet. And have yourself a wonderful evening tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock with the latest on the Jets coming out of practice. Ken Weeb will join us and much more, so do not miss it. We'll see you then. Shout out to podcast listeners, and a big thanks to all the sponsors that make this show happen every day. Have a great one, and we'll see you tomorrow on WST at 1.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.